my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be trying out a bunch of new luxury makeup and new to me luxury makeup. So probably the most exciting launch I have to talk about is the new YSL Make Me Blush powder blushes. So there was kind of like a fluke and Sephora Canada accidentally released these early and then they took them off. So they basically made them so they're not available until I believe it's the 17th of December. But because of that fluke, I was able to purchase one of them. And I was debating between picking up two, but I just thought I'd pick up one to start with so I could test out this formula. I picked up the shade 6, which is Rose Haze. This just looked like the most neutral, and I wanted to try out a matte one because I thought these would be very comparable to the Gucci blushes, and I'm more familiar with the matte shades from the Gucci release. And I do find I don't like the shimmery blushes from Gucci as much as the matte ones. They only have one shimmery blush from the Gucci launch, which is that beige one. And I just don't love the shimmer in it as much. So I figured I'd just pick up a matte one to start and then I'd pick up some other shimmery shades if I enjoyed this. I also have the Dior Foundation stick and the Dior Contour stick. I've actually had these for quite a while, but I actually haven't tested these on camera. And I figured you guys would want to see these in action because I know this foundation stick has had a lot of hype. A lot of people have been loving it. Same with this contour stick. It's not really a contour stick in my opinion, but anyways, I have a bunch of new products and I thought that I would play with them and show you guys these products in action. So I'm gonna get started with the complexion, and first I actually received this sample with the YSL blush. I got the Merit Great Skin Priming Moisturizer, and I just figured I'd start out with this. I don't usually use a primer on an everyday basis, but I am a little bit dry because I am incorporating a retinol into my skincare routine, so I just figured this would be handy. And this is, did I say the Great Skin Primer? I feel like a lot of people have been hyping this up, so I'm curious to test this out. This feels like a straight up moisturizer, so probably will work best for people with drier skin types. It does feel very hydrating though. I feel like if I'm comparing it to other products, like compared to the Victoria Beckham Priming Moisturizer, this one feels more hydrating than even that one. So yeah, again, I probably would not recommend this for oily skin types. I feel like you will find it too moisturizing. I'm almost feeling like it's a little bit too slippy for my skin type. It's like very, very slippy on the skin. So curious about that. I'm going to just let this sit on my skin for about 2 minutes because, again, I feel like this is very, very hydrating. So we have this Dior Forever Skin Perfect. This is their stick foundation. And I was really curious about this one because I'm actually not normally a huge fan of stick foundations. I typically don't love them. The Tom Ford stick foundation was probably my all-time favorite, and I do miss that formula. And I would say this is pretty reminiscent of that Tom Ford stick formula. The Tom Ford stick formula, I would say, is less emollient though. This one seems to have a little bit more slip on the skin. But this is, again, a stick formula. It has a natural finish. It's an innovative multi-use foundation stick that delivers a natural blurred finish, 24 hours coverage, and all-day hydration. It says the finish is natural. This buildable foundation stick glides on smoothly, evening out your complexion and eliminating imperfections in a single swipe. The heat and humidity-resistant formula has a blurring filter effect and can be used as a foundation or concealer for touch-ups on the go. So I disagree. I do not feel like this makes a good concealer. I have tried it under the eyes and it just creases. It's a little bit too heavy for the under eye region. And I don't like to swipe foundation on my skin. I just feel like that is kind of a disaster waiting to happen because you never know how much coverage you're going to get if you just swipe it over your skin. You're probably going to go in with too much. It's just like if you go in with a swipe on your face, I feel like that's even too much product. So I like to just swipe 3 little stripes onto my hand. And then what I will do is I will go in with my foundation brush so that I can evenly pick it up on my foundation brush. And then from there, I will work it onto the complexion. Now, another dislike about this foundation, or I guess I shouldn't say another dislike. I haven't listed any other dislikes about this foundation. But a dislike about this foundation is that it is very highly fragrant. This is definitely one of the most fragrance products in my collection. And I know a lot of you guys comment and say that I should expect luxury beauty brands to have fragrances. But I don't really agree because Dior has released foundations like the Dior Super Potent Serum Foundation, which was my holy grail until they discontinued it. They didn't have a very strong fragrance in that. It just was like a fragrance from the skincare in that foundation, or it was very lightly fragranced. And same with like the Chanel Sublimage L'Essence de Tente. that's very lightly fragranced in comparison to some other foundations. And I feel like the fragrance mostly comes from like the skincare in the foundation. So I don't mind if things are lightly fragranced, but when they're heavily perfumey, that's when I don't love it. And this is straight up perfumey. It smells like you're applying perfume to your face. And I just wish at this point we'd eliminate fragrance, because a lot of people can be sensitive. It's not a guarantee that it will work for anyone or everyone. And I'm actually not sensitive to fragrance. Like, I could wear it day in and day out. I just don't think it's good for your skin health to be wearing a fragrance on your skin every single day. I think that there's studies that are proven that it's not great for you. So that's just my personal preference. So I do really like this foundation stick because you can get such a variety of different looks out of this. You can really build it up on the skin. You can get a sheer coverage, like just going in with that minimal amount of product that I applied on my hand. I'm getting sheer coverage and I can still see freckles peeking through. I can still see a little bit of discoloration peeking through. So it's not like an ultra perfecting high coverage product. If you don't want it to be, you can really sheer it out. But it is buildable up to, I would say, a medium coverage. I wouldn't build it past that because it will start to look like makeup on the skin. This isn't like an undetectable product unless you wear it very sheerly, like I kind of stated originally. But I do really like that it goes on so smoothly, so evenly. Like I said, I'm a little bit dry right now because I have incorporated a retinol, but it glides on so smoothly. It does not settle into any dryness or pick up on any dryness. It doesn't settle into any pores. I do want to state, though, I did have someone leave a comment and say that on their mature skin, it did settle into pores. So maybe that's something to be aware of if you test it out. But for me, this is very blurring on my pore area and all over my skin. It looks like I've applied a soft focus filter, which is one of my favorite qualities on foundation and something I look for in foundation products. I would say I agree that it evens out your complexion and eliminates imperfections. This does a really good job of covering up any imperfections you may have. Again, it subtly blurs them out without it being heavy coverage, which I really enjoy as well. But if you do need heavier coverage in an area, you can build it up in those areas. I just think this is stunning on the skin. It does look really, really nice. So that foundation I think looks beautiful on the skin, and I'm going to give a little spoiler. I'm actually going to Hawaii with my boyfriend in February, and I'm going to be taking this foundation. First of all, I'm only taking a carry-on, so this will be great because I won't have to bring a liquid foundation. It's very easy to transport with. It is very travel-friendly. And also, I feel like it's going to hold up really well in humidity. I'm actually going in my parents' hot tub today, so I feel like this will be a great wear test as well because I can see how it holds up in a hot tub, which will equivalent about to me being in Hawaii, and humidity resistant. That will be the test today in the hot tub. Very curious about that. That has a blurring filter effect. I totally agree with blurring and filter effect. Everything looks really smooth on the skin. I love how it looks on the pores. It's really, truly beautiful and can be used as a foundation or concealer for touch-ups. Again, I wouldn't use this as an under-eye concealer. I do think you could build it up on any areas, like if you had any blemishes or anything. But I still think like the Clé de Peau, the concealer, is a better option. But again, if you were in a pinch, like to Hawaii, I'm not going to bring my Clé de Peau, the concealer, because I feel like that's just too many products. But I will just touch up with this, and I think it can be used in a pinch. I just feel like the Clé de Peau, the concealer, which is just this little guy here, this just works better on the skin as a facial concealer. But you can make this work. I just think this looks like a little bit better on the skin. But I want to talk about the contour stick, because this is saying it's a contour stick, sculpting and bronzing face stick. So that's kind of a lot of words in one. But I would say that depending on the shade, you're going to get either a contour stick and a bronzing stick. The shade number 2, which is the one I picked up, it's 02 Tan. This is definitely more of a bronzing stick. It is the warmest tone bronzer that I have in my collection. It's almost orange. Like, I feel like the Chantecaille bronzer leans warm, but this is even warmer on the skin, surprisingly. Like, it is quite warm. So if you have cool tone skin, you are not going to like this at all. It's also very, very dark. Like, you can see how deep this is, and I don't really love that because you just have to really sheer it out on the skin if you're my complexion, and I have like a light to medium tone skin. But if you're even lighter, this probably won't really work for you because you're going to have to really sheer it out. You're just going to have to be so careful with how you use it. But then the shade 01 Light is so gray toned. Like, if you know Westman Atelier Biscuit, which is already quite cool toned, it's even cooler toned than that. So I feel like it's not going to work for someone who has a a warm complexion, even if you're neutral leaning warm, it's going to be too cool tone for you. It's just so cool toned. It didn't work for me at all, so I had to return it. It was just way too gray on me. I mean, you could use that as a contour, but even something that gray kind of looked silly on my complexion. And like I said, this is just so warm, so you have to really sheer it out. I would absolutely not advise drawing this like you see people draw it on their face like this. That's going to be way too much product for something that is this deep and this pigmented and this warm. Your best bet is going to be going in with like a fluffier brush. So I would advise something like this BK Beauty 107 brush. It's very fluffy. Or this BK Beauty, this is a 111 brush. This is still fluffy, but it's a little bit more dense than that one. So I feel like actually I'm going to go in with the 111. I do really like this for bronzer, and I'm going to be very specific and strategic about how I apply this. I'm just going to read a little bit about this. Again, I do really like how this looks on the skin. I just wish there was more shade options available, and I wish there was no fragrance in this product because that's another downfall for me. This is a hydrating contour stick that blends effortlessly, enhancing your complexion with a natural-looking sculpted/bronzed effect for up to 24 hours. Has medium coverage and natural finish. This creamy, hydrating, and long-wearing formula blends seamlessly into the skin, delivering a naturally sculpted effect. In one step, it warms your complexion, highlights shadowy areas, and lends striking definition to your facial contours for a customized look that withstands heat and humidity. So again, really am curious about testing this out on the skin for the heat and humidity aspect. I'm going to draw this on my complexion, or sorry, on my hand, just that one stripe. And then I'm going to pick it up with this fluffier brush, making sure I get it really evenly distributed onto the brush. And then I'm going to apply it onto the complexion. I'm going in with this product before I go in with any concealer because I feel like just in case it's a little bit too deep, I can clean it up a little bit. But see, just going in with that one stripe, I feel like is enough color for me. It's still giving me that really soft definition, and it's not picking up too much color. It's giving me a really natural bronzed effect. It might be like virtually imperceptible on camera, but in real life, I can notice that slight contrast, but it is very, very subtle. It's not an obvious bronzing effect as well. But I really enjoy this again because this has not a lot of emollients where it's going to be too hydrating on the skin, but it is emollient enough. It has enough of a slip to it that it just blends so effortlessly into the skin. Like this blends like a dream. This is better. I'm actually going to go in with one more stripe of product because I feel like I'm going to just show you that this is buildable. But again, you just need to be careful with how you apply it, especially if you have my skin tone or lighter. But it is really pretty on how it blends into the skin. And again, it's one of those blurring bronzing products, which I really enjoy. And it's really long wearing, especially in the fall and winter time. Again, curious how it's going to hold up today. I'm going to run a little bit over my eyelids as well. But I really like the finish because it's not too dewy. It's not too matte on the skin. For me, it has that perfect soft focus, creamy finish where my skin just looks so healthy and youthful. And I just love how it sits on the skin. So I do agree that it's long wearing, it's creamy, it's hydrating. It does blend seamlessly. Taking my Westman Atelier concealer. This is the Vital Skincare Concealer in the shade M1. Again, M2 would be better for me, but I can get M1 to work. This is a very concentrated, highly pigmented concealer. So I like to just take a little bit of product right on my darkest areas. And then I will blend it out from there using this Refer B05 brush. I really like this because a little bit of product goes a long way. It is highly pigmented, but it is creamy. It really reminds me of my Ciroc concealer. Even though, like I stated, the Ciroc concealer is still my holy grail concealer, this I would say comes quite closely because they perform really, really similarly. How they don't crease, they don't move throughout the day. It looks just as beautiful at the beginning of the day as it does towards the end of the day. It doesn't settle or anything. I really, really like how this holds up on the skin. And you can also use it on other areas of your complexion. I do feel like it does look the best on the under eye because it is slightly light reflecting. So it just refracts the light a little bit. Not in a way where it's shimmery, but in a way where it just blurs. and it's just really, really pretty on the skin. I forgot to mention, one of my favorite things about that Westman Atelier concealer is that you don't require to set it down with powder. It does set itself, which I really like that self-setting. It's just very high performing. It's a really beautiful product. For my lips, I'm going to take a few products actually, so this might be a little bit annoying. So I want to do the lips before the cheeks. I don't know why, I've just been doing this lately. So I'm going to take the NARS. This is the Explicit lipstick in the shade Envy. Some of you guys let me know that I should pick up the shade Adulterous, and I think I am going to pick it up. Sephora just announced that they're doing a 20% off, like one-time use code, but it's not available in Canada, which I feel like is so rude. Like, why are we excluded from that sale? But I'm taking the Chantecaille Lip Chic in the shade Patience. So I was planning on purchasing that there when I saw they were doing that sale, but then I found out it was US only, so maybe I'll hold off. I don't know. I might just end up purchasing it because I do really like that NARS formula, and I feel like that is something to me is worth paying full price. And then to finish it off, I'm going to take the YSL. This is the Rouge Volupté Candy Glaze, my ultimate favorite. Just for a little extra hydration, I'm just going to place that on the center of the lips. Honestly, that combo together does give enough glossiness, but I just want a slight bit more. I'm not going to apply powder bronzer or anything like that. I'm not going to powder my skin. I'm not going to use a liquid blush or cream blush because I want to tell you about this YSL powder blush. So again, this is a new release from YSL, and I was excited about this because they claim this is blurring. So YSL Make Me Blush 24-Hour Buildable Powder Blush. It is coming in a variety of formulas. So we have the matte. We also have a satin. It seems to have a more shimmery finish. I was a little nervous about that one because it did, like I looked at photos of the model and it looked like it was emphasizing pores on the model's skin. So I thought, wow, imagine that in real life. It might be very pore emphasizing, even though it claims this is a pore blurring formula, but that's just inherent with a shimmery powder. It does pick up on texture on the skin. And again, I might end up picking up a shimmery product up or shimmery blush up because I do really like this formula as a spoiler alert. So this will be available December 17th. I'm going to try and release this video on the 17th. And I picked up the shade number 6, which is Rose Haze. This is a long-wearing, waterproof pressed powder formula, and it's just a typical powder blush formula. So I would say it's similar to the Gucci blushes. However, this is a lot more velvety. It feels very, very smooth on the skin in comparison to the Gucci, which had a little bit of a rougher texture. This just feels satiny smooth. Like, I feel like you guys will like the texture of this, but it's different than like say the Valentino blushes, which are kind of like a cream to powder blush formula. So this iconic silky smooth powder blush melts seamlessly and blurs easily onto cheeks, lasting up to 24 hours and leaving your skin feeling comfortable and weightless with no dryness, flaking, or caking. These collectible couture blushes offer buildable color and are available in matte and satin finishes. So like I said, I picked up one of the matte formulas. I do like this packaging. I think it's really beautiful. I like that the color of this at the top reflects what is inside. At least in this one it does. Like, it's that very similar tone. So I'm going to go in with a Refer 05 brush, which is my favorite brush to apply blushes with. I'm going to dip in. I'm going to go in a little heavier. Usually I go in with a little bit of a lighter application, but I am going to tap off that excess. And how I like to apply blush is just tapping it on. So I am going, like, I didn't powder my skin underneath, which sometimes will get you a bit of an easier blend. But I'm just going to try it on dry skin, on just freshly applied skin, because I have been doing this and it's been working out well. Like I said, it is a buildable formula, so you can start off with just a little bit of color, especially if you go in with a small amount, but it is very buildable. And I do have to agree, it is very forgiving on the pores. Like, everything I used has been very forgiving on the pores and very blurring to the pores. And this looks beautiful on the pores. And I really like how this lip matches the cheeks very, very well. This is the type of blush that's going to work with so many different eye shades. You could wear a smoky eye with this. You could wear it with just a more neutral eye. It's going to pair really beautifully. This is like a My Cheeks but better shade. I really, really love it. And I feel like some of you guys are going to ask how this compares to NARS Behave. This was like my holy grail blush from 2024. This again it feels more velvety than the Gucci blushes, but the YSL blush is still even more velvety. That color is probably pretty similar to the YSL blush. There's the NARS one there. If I'm I would say that the YSL one has a little bit more saturation to it. It's a little brighter than that NARS blush. And I think that the YSL one, it actually is a little bit more flattering on the skin even. And I really like that NARS. I'm not saying anything bad about that NARS, but I just think that the YSL one is better for pores on the skin. Like, it just honestly looks very pore blurring. Like, for me, I don't even feel like I need to go in with my Clé de Peau powder to blur the pores, because I feel like it does such a good job. It just looks really beautiful. And I like that it's very soft on the skin. Like, I'm going in with my third layer now, and I don't feel like it looks too harsh. You can really, really build it up. I'm trying to see. I don't notice a fragrance in this product, so for me, that's really nice, especially because everything else was quite highly fragranced. I really think this is a really beautiful blush. I feel like the Gucci blushes would be the most comparable formula, because in comparison to like the Valentino blush, which is my holy grail, that Valentino blush is more of a powder to cream product. It's very creamy to the touch, where this is a straight up powder blush. This definitely doesn't feel as silky as the YSL though. So this shade right here is Bright Coral, which is one of my favorites. It's like a beautiful peachy pink. Don't really think it's gonna have a similar color story to the YSL one. Rosy Beige from Gucci is probably the most similar, but it is actually not similar. The Rosy Beige from Gucci is more of a, it's like a mauvey shade. It has a little bit of like gray to it almost. And then this is the shade 06 from YSL. Again, they feel very different. This is a very velvety smooth formula, and it's more sheer in pigmentation. I would say it's more buildable on the skin. So that's the shade 6 in comparison. It's like a less saturated version of the coral shade. It's probably not as warm toned as that coral shade. It's definitely more punchy of a shade than the Rosy Beige. Like, there's definitely more pink into it. You can see it's not as like cool toned or gray as that Rosy Beige. But I would just say the formulation is similar, like how it looks on the skin. Probably quite similar, because again, it's a powder blush formula, but the shades are not similar at all. So I am happy about that. I wanted a really nice neutral pink tone, and I feel like this is going to be the perfect neutral shade. So I do feel like, again, some of you guys are going to ask for the color of the Valentina 09, because a lot of you have these blushes. So that's Valentina 09 right there. So they are very similar, like the YSL and the Valentina 09 are similar, but to me, the Valentino leans warm. It's a little bit more of a corally tone. It leans with a little bit more orange to it than the YSL, which is a little bit more neutral toned, has a little bit more pink in it. And again, I think the NARS has a little bit more coral to it too. It's a little bit warmer than the YSL, which is more of a neutral tone. It leans a little bit more pink than that coral pink mix. The YSL one is just a little bit more pink tone, but it does have a little bit of warmth in it. So yeah, I would say those are the most similar. So there's the YSL, there's the NARS, and then there's the Valentino. Get a little bit closer. But I do feel like they're similar, but different enough that you could have all of them. That might just be me being makeup obsessed, but you could obviously pick up another color. But I feel like the formulations are very similar, but I like the YSL because it has even more pore blurring properties to it. So I'm very curious to see how the satin ones are going to perform, because I wonder if they do have a shimmer, if they're going to emphasize texture on the skin. But I really like this. It kind of has that, yeah, it's just a beautiful finish. And even though it's a matte blush, it's not flat matte on the skin where it looks dry or it looks just dull on the skin. It's not a matte flat finish. So I really like that it does actually make the skin look healthy. It's really, really pretty. I'm actually just going to apply a little bit of powder. So I'm going to take my Clé de Peau, and I'm going to just apply it in anywhere where I get oily, because again, I'm going to see how this holds up today. And you know what? I was going to go in with this Chantecaille. I picked up one of the luminescent eye shades in the shade Mustang, because they discontinued Lion, which is like my holy grail one and done eyeshadow. And they've made this permanent, which is the Mustang. This was limited edition, but now it's permanent. So I was wondering if this could replace Lion. It's really, really beautiful. It's definitely more neutral tone than Lion. And I think it would look really nice today. But like I said, I'm going to my mom's. I'm going outside for a walk. I'm also going in the hot tub, and I just feel like that's too much makeup. The last new product we have for the skin is the Hermes. This is the Face and Eyes Illuminating Powder. This is the limited edition release for the holidays. This is the only holiday collection I picked up, and I just couldn't resist. I tried to resist, but this is so beautiful. So this beautiful Hermes illuminating powder pays tribute to the Hermes store. This exquisite versatile powder features an iconic compressed design and can be applied to the face, eyes, or décolleté. It's a fine, silky, soft texture that has metallic shimmer that leaves a rosy, luminous veil on the skin. The pearlescent pink particles at the heart of its formula adapt to all skin tones. So I do find this to be pretty universal. I think it could work for a variety of different skin tones. I do think if you are very fair and cool toned, this might be a little too almost coppery on your skin. This is beautiful. It definitely does have a little bit of a pink tone to it. Like on me, it definitely leans more pink, cooler tone than it does coppery. But I really like that. I don't have many cool tone pinky highlighters, so I figured this would be a good one for my collection. And I just really like Hermes formulas. They do very beautiful, finely milled powders. So I'm going to dip in with this BK Beauty N13 brush. I really like this for highlighter, and I'm just taking a little bit of product on the very high points of the cheekbones. This is definitely one of those highlighters that gives you that wet effect. It is not something that adds, like it does add dimension because it's a sheen, but it is definitely a wet effect highlighter. It's not super subtle. It's not very, I don't know, natural of a highlighter. This definitely has a little bit of glow to it. I'm going to apply that a little bit to my inner corners of the eyes as well. It does have that quality because this is a baked gelée powder that it really melts and just adapts and becomes one with the skin, while leaving you that dewy glow versus it being something that, again, is very natural. This is very skin flattering. It's definitely a noticeable highlighter. Like it's not a no makeup glow like something like the Chanel Balm Essentiel that's that cream balm highlighter. This definitely gives you more reflection, but I still think it is subtle for a more metallic highlighter. Like I can't detect shimmer particles. It just gives you that wet glow on the skin, and I think it's just very flattering because it gives you that kind of healthy glow on the skin. I'm just going to leave the makeup as is here, and I'm just going to run through everything quickly. Like I think the skin looks really good. I went outside in daylight because I always like to check how the makeup looks outside, and it looks really pretty. No, it doesn't look like absolutely no makeup, but my skin looks really pretty. It doesn't look like heavy makeup sitting on the skin. You can still see skin texture showing through it. I think this is just a really beautiful in-person foundation. This would be amazing for like holiday parties where you still want your skin to look perfected, but you don't want it to look too perfected where you can't see like anything showing through your skin. This is a really beautiful in-person foundation because you can't actually see foundation sitting on your skin. Same with that bronzing product. While I don't really like the colors at all. I wish there was more available because I just feel like the first one is too fair and it's too cool toned, and this one's too dark and too warm toned. Not that it's too, because obviously that's going to suit someone with a deeper skin tone, but I just wish there was lighter shades available. I wish there was a better shade range, I guess I want to say, because I wish this was lighter and toned, and I wish there was more lighter options available, but I also think there should be deeper options available for those with deeper skin tones. I just wish it suited more of a variety of skin tones, but I feel like these formulas are truly gorgeous. They did a good job in the foundation, but I just wish there was more shades, and maybe they will branch out and release more shades. I also wish they'd reformulate and just remove the fragrance, but I know most of you don't mind that, but these are really, really beautiful products. And then talking about the blush, I really like this blush. Obviously, like I showed you, it's very similar to my Valentina 09 and the NARS blush, but I just like that this is a little bit more sheer on the skin. It's very buildable. It is very pore blurring. To me, there's enough of a difference. Like this is just a little bit more neutral in tone, has a little bit more of pink to it than the other shades, where I feel like I do like this in addition to, obviously you could just get a different shade so that you could have a better variety of tones in your collection. You obviously don't need this many similar shades, but I actually think I prefer this formula, and I actually like this formula better than the Gucci. I can't believe I'm saying that because I really like the Gucci formula, but I feel like the Gucci formula is a little bit more drying. This one has a little bit more life to it on the skin than the Gucci formula does. I also like that this one is more buildable in the skin. The Gucci does have a little bit more pigment to it just initially right off the bat, so I feel like this is going to work a lot better for beginners. I think the packaging is beautiful. It's really nicely made. It's made in Italy. It has a 24-month shelf life, so I do like that. But my favorite thing I have to say is how pore blurring it is. That's just what I really like in products. I think it just looks so flattering on the skin, especially if they're not highly pigmented products, like they don't cover your skin. I just think that's such a beautiful look when your skin looks blurred without it being a highly pigmented product. I just really love that, and I just really like how the skin looks. Again, I'm really hoping that I'll be back to do a check-in at the end of the day and see how this held up in the hot tub. Okay, I'm doing an 8-hour check-in, and I can't believe I've made it 8 hours. It is very late in the night. I need to go to bed, and it is very dark out, so I do have a light on, so hopefully the lighting is okay. I'm very surprised and very impressed by how this has worn. Not only does the foundation and the bronzer, I think it looks beautiful for 8 hours. Like, it looks really, really nice. And I did, like I said, go in my mom's hot tub, and there just are activities in the hot tub where you think your makeup would not be put together. I do look really shiny in this lighting, but it's just because of the lighting in this room. I don't actually look this shiny in real life. But I'm just really impressed with how the makeup has held up, especially in that heat and humidity. It still looks really nice. At this point, all I would really do, like if I was still going to wear my makeup, I would go in with a blotting sheet, and then I would just touch up with a little bit of powder. Blush is usually the first thing that fades, and I think that this is technically supposed to be waterproof and sweatproof, humidity-proof, all of the fun things, and same with this foundation and the bronzer stick. It's all supposed to be humidity-proof and sweatproof. I think it is. Like, honestly, for me sweating, like you sweat in the hot tub, and we were in there for like a decent amount of time. It looks really, really nice. I'm very impressed with how the makeup looks. Obviously, I could use some lip gloss and I could use a powder touch-up. So really impressed with this blush. I think the longevity is fantastic. I like that this is a matte blush that still gives you life to your skin. It gives a lot of brightness to the complexion and is really beautiful. I like how it's so velvety smooth and soft. Really nice finish. I do like the color of this. This is perfect if you're my complexion and you like something that just brightens up your skin tone. It's going to pair beautifully with warm looks or cool looks. So this is kind of a go-to blush for me. This, I wonder if this will replace my Valentino. I feel like the Valentino is just such a unique formula where this is just a typical powder blush. It doesn't have any like special qualities to it, except that it's very smooth and velvety and pore blurring. But I just really like this color, how it's that perfect peachy pink. I think the name Rose Haze is a little deceiving because you'd think this leaned more pink, but I think it's like a peachy pink, and it's just really pretty because it's so neutral. Love how this foundation wore. It's so beautiful. Love how this bronzer wore as well. So even though I don't love the fragrance, these products do just remain beautiful on the skin. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts on all these new products down below. Like this video if you like it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.